You're watching the How to Play Rock Guitar system on the 10-week RockSTAR learning platform, the world's shortest learning curve to master everything in life that you've ever wanted to do. Here's your instructor, Blair Barnhardt. Let's get started.
Hey everyone, welcome back. This is week 3 and we're in part A, week 3. I know last week was really a little bit longer than we intended, but it's very difficult to cover all the tuning techniques in a short amount of time, so hopefully you got a lot of value out of that session. I put a little bonus drum track in as a MP3. Make sure you get that drum track downloaded to your computer so you can play along with it. I asked my good friend Jason to go ahead and give us 3 or 4 of the most popular rock drum tracks. I know they're not long, but they're short, and as we go through the last 7 weeks here, I want you to start thinking about writing a few of your own riffs. So I'm going to show you some very popular riffs and how to play them, but don't think that I expect at the end of 10 weeks you to not be able to write your own riff. So think about that. Whether I play a Rush riff from the 80s or I play a brand new riff from 2014, just think about all those riffs evolved from other guitar players along the way. So the 70s and the 80s and the 90s were big influences on our modern day players. So if I teach you a riff from the 80s or the 70s or the 90s or the 2000s to demonstrate something, just know that even if you've never heard of that band, the riffs go on forever. They just go on forever because those bands that we would listen to in the 80s, 90s, 2000s, 2010s, those bands became huge influences for modern day bands. So remember, there's a very minute amount of notes out there on your guitar to play and very few ways to get at them. So everything is just evolving from all of our predecessors in the industry. Now, this week we'll go ahead and put some of these tablature and chord chart sheets, blank sheets, into the Kajabi Next platform on the 10-week RockSTAR. But more importantly, continue to memorize your fretboard here, and for this session today before we get going, I'm going to take a red marker and I'm going to walk down the D string and your G string, or Daffy and Grover if you're one of our younger listeners. So here we have the open D, and again, I've taken the guitar, I made it simple. I flipped it upside down. So just be aware of that. The low strings are in the bottom and the treble strings are on the top, much like the tablature. So this is a good way for you to look at the guitar and look at the whiteboard and understand where we're at in the overall scheme of things. So memorize, and hopefully by this week you've memorized the low E, Edgar, and the low A, Albert. So E, F, F sharp, G, G sharp, A sharp, B, right to the C, no B sharp, C sharp, and D. So now we go D, D sharp, or, as you might have guessed, E flat. Okay, now we've got the E here. Now the interesting thing about the E right there is this. Hopefully my guitar is still in tune. But you got the low E, and if you fret the 4th string at the 2nd fret, that's the octave. So this is an octave. Okay? As we memorize up the fretboard, there will be plenty more octaves for you to memorize. And that's a way for you to not, just think about this, you don't have to memorize the entire fretboard, you simply have to memorize a pattern. And once you see the pattern develop, and hopefully you're seeing the pattern develop now, you know now that you only have to memorize a certain area of the fretboard, and from there you will know every other single note on the fretboard. So here we go with the, remember, no E, there's no E sharp, it goes right to F. So we're going to go E, right to F, and as you might have guessed, that low F and this F on the 4th string are octaves as well. So now we go F sharp to the, I'll give you guys a second to think about it. I mean, you can see the pattern develop, F sharp, F sharp. So wouldn't it make sense that this would be You guessed it, G, the G string. And remember when we were doing tuning conventionally, we played that note and the open G string to do tuning. And that's the reason why we tune the open string to the 5th fret 4th string. 5th fret 4th string is a G note as well as the open G down here, as you might have guessed. So G, G sharp, or A flat. And again, for those of you who are following along, you may want to go ahead and draw your own guitar and put the notes in there, maybe a little bit bigger, a different color, whatever it takes for you to memorize this fretboard. It's key in your success going forward to the 10-week RockSTAR program. Now, A flat goes right to A sharp, or the B flat, and you might have noticed here again, the 5th string, B flat, 3rd string, B flat, is also an octave. So let me demonstrate. I've got my finger, I'll put my first finger on the 5th string at the 2nd fret, and there we have a perfect octave. And if the guitar's in tune, it should sound just like that. And now you'll start to see this marvelous pattern truly develop. And that's the reason why by next week, when you've memorized the entire 5 frets, 6 strings, you'll have the entire fretboard memorized for that matter, because you can move these patterns up the fretboard. So what do you think? B flat, we had B flat over here, it went directly to B, so as you might have guessed, we go directly to B, and B goes directly to, you guessed it, C. So there we have it, the 4 strings, 5 frets, 6 notes, so that's 5 times 6 is 30, I guess. So you've got 30 notes memorized by this time next week. Now, last week I also promised you that I would teach you during the hybrid picking. I said we'd learn a little smoke in the water. So let's sit down here. I'll show you that riff. And then I want you to go back and grab some of Jason's his drum tracks and play along with Jason, but don't do the exact same riff. Make up your own riff with these couple of notes that I'm about to show you. So before we do that, I want to go through this one simple thing that will change the way you listen to music from here on in. You've got these 2 signs right here. And before we sit down to go through this, I want you to think about downbeat, upbeat, downbeat, upbeat. This will represent the downbeat, this like staple, I guess you could say, and the B will represent the upbeat. So if we're going down and up, down and up, down and up, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. It doesn't necessarily make a lot of sense to you right now, but if you go back and listen to some of your favorite reggae albums, a lot of reggae music, the guitar strokes are on the upbeat. And one thing you could go back, if you have it already on your iTunes library, if you listen to a live recording of Guns N' Roses, when they did Knock, Knock, Knockin' on Heaven's Door, Slash and Axl break the song down and they go into this reggae beat. So think about it. Hard driving rock song, great song by Bob Dylan, all the way through. And then I think Axl says somewhere about the 6-minute mark, let's break this down or whatever, and they go to reggae. And then the next thing you know, Slash is playing everything now on the upbeat in a reggae style. So as we talk about down and up beats today in the classroom, if you watch my foot, I'm going down on the downbeat, up on the upbeat, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Clearly, the faster the song is, the harder it will be for you to accentuate your attention or focus on the upbeat. But as we move forward into maybe the bonus section, we talk a little about songwriting that, the upbeat is a very effective place to drop in vocal cues, guitar hooks, saxophone hooks, you name it. If the drums and the bass are driving on the downbeat and the vocalist comes in on the offbeat, makes for a very effective song. And this is part of the songwriting craft that you will go on to learn all about. As you become a better guitar player, you'll become so aware of that upbeat and where to throw a lick in there. It becomes a very effective tool in your arsenal.
The 10-week RockSTAR system. You got this. Remember, amateurs practice till they get it right. Professionals rehearse until they can't play it wrong.